To the 21 Convention 2020 here in Orlando, Florida, Patriarchs Edition Redman Group. We have 65 minutes where we're going to cover fathering during fallout, how to lead your family with all the chaos that's going on in the world. So this is the Patriarchs Edition of the Redman Group. We just wrapped up a great weekend of parenting, of fatherhood, of becoming a better father, of what to expect when you become a father. On this panel, to my far right, your left, I have Ivan Throne, Big Tex, Phil Foster, and to my left, Tanner Guzzi, Michael Foster, and the George Bruno. With that, we're going to dive into how the convention went for the speakers, and then for the last 15 minutes, we're going to have a Q&A from those in attendance. So first, Ivan, how was the convention for you?
Well, I think the 21 Patriarch Conference has been it's a fundamentally different thing now because it's not theory being done. It's the second year. Men are actually making the changes now. We're seeing the results out there with people. Guys are coming back. They have more children. Families are happier. Families are stronger. The men are more confident, more responsible. The leadership is changing the times, and we have the privilege and the honor of being a part of what drives that. With practical, real-world action on changing men. It's not an idea. It's reality. And as men, our job is to make reality. And it's beautiful to see it finally being done again, especially as the world burns and it's needed. That's my take.
I think we'll all agree with that. Tex, how was it for you?
It was fantastic. I cannot think of a better time for us to have gotten together for this. With everything, as Ivan just alluded to, with the world burning right now, and by gosh, it really is burning right now. There's never been a better time for fathers to get together and reinforce their resolve and reinforce their commitment to their families and pick up the life skills that you need to make that happen. And what we saw again was a group of men coming together like we did last year, roughly 18 months ago. We were able to get back through it again, get through COVID, get back out here, and come together and learn from each other. And even as the old guy in the group, I'm learning from these younger guys as well. I'm picking up tips on how I can help my grandsons do better in life, things that I wish I had done with my son, that type of thing. So there's generational knowledge going up and down the spectrum here. So I hope we continue to do these as the years go on. I think it's a very valuable resource, and this year was even better than last year, and last year was superb.
We keep raising the bar.
Absolutely.
Before I toss it to Phil, I'd like to make a first-time announcement, a special announcement. You know, during the first 21 Convention Patriarchs Edition, I had the privilege and the honor of being the chief patriarch. And who could go after that and bring it up and do justice to it? Nobody but Tanner himself. And he went up there and he set that bar. He set a high mark. And then Tanner said, well, we've got to choose the next guy, and he did. And he came over and asked, he said, hey, what do you think? I said, I absolutely agree. So it doesn't make any more sense than to talk about raising the bar than to give it to the man who's known for raising the bar, the barbell man himself. Phil Foster is next year's chief patriarch.
Right.
Wow.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Phil, you're a first-time 21 convention speaker. Then you went to 22 Con, and now you're back on the stage.
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride for me this go-around. I attended the Patriarchs Convention last year and 21 Con the year prior to that. And what I've taken away from this conference is it's great to see the amount of true heart and soul that a lot of the gentlemen that put their butts in the seat, so to speak, in front of the camera and bare their soul to help gentlemen continue to grow on their paths to being better fathers, men and husbands. It's amazing to see the gentlemen get together after the speakers, with the speakers and with themselves, and exchange ideas and improve themselves year after year. So this is, like I said, my second Patriarchs to attend and first time to speak at one, and it has been an amazing experience to be a part of it all.
That's great. It's an excellent selection, and there's nobody better, I could think, to take that torch and carry it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, the chief patriarch himself. This is your ship to navigate, and from what I've seen, you did a damn good job. So
Thank
Tanner,
you.
how was the convention for you this time as leading the way?
Man, best one it ever was, best one it ever will be. No, I'm just kidding. I absolutely loved it. There was the level of hope and energy and intentionality and earnestness that I saw in the men who were in the audience, and especially because the majority of them are men who have been here before. There's a tribe that's being built here. And from a very selfish perspective, that I got to spend 4 days having my batteries recharged, being around men who are unapologetically pursuing wanting to be better men, wanting to be better fathers, wanting to be better in every single facet, because it can feel really lonely when you're the only one in your neighborhood or in your community or in your workplace or anything else that even cares about this stuff, when it feels like everybody else is just more interested in what can I consume or what can I lull myself away with or anything. And to be in a room full of men who take it seriously, who are earnest about it, and are we're genuinely seeing the progress that they're making. All of these guys have already mentioned this. They come back in better shape, and they've got better body language, and they carry themselves better. They're dressing better. Everybody's leveling up their games, and it's putting pressure on us to keep leveling up our game, and it's the best. So I've loved it. It's been great.
I really appreciate what you said about watching the tribe form, because before our eyes, before the men who attended the Patriarch's eyes, you see men who are going from consuming, as you said, to using technology to connect with other like-minded men who now they're no longer confined by proximity.
Mm-hmm.
They're from all over, getting each other's contact. Like, hey man, how you doing? You know, what's new? You still working out? Still leading the family? You know, still dialing things in?
And there's evidence that they are doing all those
Exactly.
things. Absolutely.
Michael Foster, first-time speaker, and your speech was talked about quite a bit since you gave it. How was it? How was the convention? How was your experience?
It was great, man. I had a great time. Tanner and I were talking about a little bit what I expected as a Presbyterian Christian family man, pastor. I didn't know what I was 100% getting into, so I thought there would be bad elements and good elements, but it was almost all good and very, I've grown, right? I've benefited from it. The way I kind of look at this, having on the backside of this, it's kind of like cross-training. Like in the early days of UFC, it was like Royce Gracie would come in there and just choke everybody out. Then people learned how to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But then there was a time when all the strikers got really good, and then it really started to grow and make complete fighters. And so when you come here, you go to these different sessions, and I don't look what they're going to be on. I'm like, what am I going to learn now? And it's something, and it comes from very different perspectives, and it causes you to think about things differently. So it's just like when you change up your training physically, you get benefits from it. So I love that there's guys like me that are going to come at this from a very spiritual, biblical perspective, and guys are thinking about it from a physical or financial. All those different pieces are challenging guys, and I found myself challenged in almost every one I went to. And after I got to teach after you two, and you guys were really intense, so I was like, all right, I am taking the gloves off. I'm
Good.
going all in.
Good.
So it's been really good.
You know, I really like the term diversity because I'm taking it back and using it in my way. And on this panel, you could not see a more diverse group of men. Age, history and background, religion, all coming together for the sole purpose of one focus, and that is helping men improve, helping fathers improve, helping families improve. And our collective strength on even opposing views, those who attend are able to pick and like, all right, I need this. I don't need that so much, but I need this. And like you said with UFC, the all-around fighter is the one who's going to win, not the one who's only leaning on one. When you get these different perspectives, and it's all like Anthony doesn't give us any rules. It's free to go. You made a point of that, and I'm glad you did. Nothing is off the table, and that's just, I mean, having you here has been a great addition to the team.
And it's not that it's relativism, like truth doesn't matter. It's that we're men, and we can argue and be friends and go have drinks and take stands, and it makes everyone, whatever their position is, it's going to be stronger at the end of it, because you're going to actually be challenged to think through it by guys that we're not here. It's not a pissing contest. It's men having real hard conversations about subjects that matter, and it's been good for that reason.
Yeah, making families strong again. George, the professional. I witnessed many of your speeches, saw many of your interviews. How was this convention? And was it any different than any of the last year's, I guess, the only one to compare it to?
Yeah, I think so. I noticed that the further along we go as an organization, now this is the second patriarch event. But even as an organization, the less reactive it is, we're just kind of leading the way, rather than, it's not like we're commenting on what happened in the past year. I don't care what happened in the past year. We are creating the agenda. You know, who was it that said, a woman says, well, what do you bring to the table? And the guy says, I am the table. You know, and it's like, this is not a panel. You look at panels, and it's like, well, what do you think of this event or this headline or like what this professor said? It's like, we are creating the agenda. This is not knee-jerk. This is a masculine group. Someone just said to me, reacting is very feminine, and responding is masculine. And we are responding to the world and initiating the conversation. I'm not answering a question. I'm the one who is literally creating the question, and we are initiating it, and we're kind of leading the way here. And I think it's even going to grow more than this. We really are going to be raising the bar. We are the bar.
I like that. So to that point, I'd like to go a little bit deeper. You know, you said we're responding, we're not reacting. You and I had a discussion about, we've got 3 months left of 2020, and 2020 has been a very interesting year. And you asked, well, how are you going to finish it? And one of my responses is it's the only way I can see we can finish it as men. You know, we decide how it is. We aren't going to be told, well, how is the election going to change, or the election doesn't matter. Well, Black Lives doesn't matter. The protest, that doesn't matter. What matters is what I choose to matter. What I decide matters. So how have you been filtering all the news coming in and not allowing it to hold you down or get you down?
I don't watch TV, that's the first thing. I don't have a television. Like, I read my news because when you read it, you read data free of emotion. I don't want to pick up on some reporter's psychological nuance when they're speaking. The dead air space, their silence, the raising and lowering of, you know, how they modulate their voice, which is manipulating the public. I read my news, number one. And I distanced myself. And when you kind of distance yourself from the propaganda, and there's a lot of propaganda. I believe nothing is random in 2020. Nothing is random. And I refused to be a chess piece. And what everyone was saying was very Jocko-ish, in the sense it was like that whole extreme responsibility thing. When I asked all you guys, and I still have a few guys to go, you know, how are you going to finish out this year? And, you know, we've had a lot of people make decisions for us. I can't go shopping unless I have a mask on. I got to do this. It's like, what? Like, I never had Big Brother intrude in my life in my 60 years as much as it did this year. I never had the government tell me what to do. Like, the government tells us what to do in some area, you know, like when we have to get taxes done. Tells me this is how fast you can drive. There was some serious ass overreach this year, telling me where I can go, where I can't go, what I have to wear, how far I have to be away from people. Use hand sanitizer, you know, just, and it was just, and there's some people who don't see that, and they're absorbing that and manifesting that stress in their bodies. And I see a lot of people stressed out from it, a lot of people. And I think guys who were men prior to this didn't absorb it as much as the guys who just believe everything they hear in the news. And it really, I think, exposed a lot of weakness in men, a lot. And strong men became conspiracy theorists, and strong men became, rebels. And I've never been so proud to be a conspiracy theorist and a rebel in my whole life. That's my answer.
That's excellent. And I like how you touched on the way our routines have been shaken up, because men with families, and especially kids who are still in the home, when the routine is mixed or messed with, it messes with them. How come all of a sudden we're not going to stores? Why is the news always angry? Well, why are you always turning it off? Why do we have to wear this piece of cloth on our face? And kids start to get worked up. So Ivan, how are you filtering, or how would you advise parents to filter all the negative information coming through the news and the media?
Every case is going to be individual, but there's some principles that I would recommend here. When you are attempting to filter the information, the news, the media, and propaganda, all of it, that comes into your children, your spouse, your loved ones, your family, do you have the ability to protect them physically from bad news? The Russians are coming. We'll pick an example. Can you stop them? If you cannot protect them, and you filter and conceal that from them, what are you doing to them? You're setting them up for disaster. Now, in between the spectrum of age appropriate, don't tell the 4-year-old the Russians are coming, all right? Can't do anything about that. And in between, as a parent, your job is not just to protect, it is to allow them to survive while they stretch their own envelope. Very important. You cannot stretch an envelope without risk and fear. That's why it's stretching and not just opening. So as a parent, you have a very fine and very difficult and very challenging line to walk between unfiltered truth and age appropriateness and also reality. You must lead them. They must come away stronger, more competent because of your protection. Your job is not to keep them safe. Your job is to keep them alive. And safety is their responsibility. On a gradient, obviously a 2-year-old is not responsible for their safety. But if they touch fire after they've been told twice, maybe the kid's dumb. Filter it more. Real life is messy. Okay? But this is my view. Children must grow to be not just functioning adults. Functioning is what? Breathing? Paying taxes? Not getting arrested every other day? No. We have an entire generation of people who believe that functional and now is the idea, that's the goal. Look at our society. Degenerate, on fire, violent, full of hate, primed and desperate, finally to go to war with itself. What happens instead if you keep children alive while you let them determine how, when in life? How? Not everybody gets a trophy, no. Some people are shot on the field and left there to rot as a warning. That is the reality of life. I'm not going to tell a 4-year-old that. Again, age appropriateness. Most of the time in real life, things are not that intense. But as a parent, it's my job to see all the intensity that may happen and guide them to be a replacement for me who sees and leads, builds, does what I do. You have to find that very uncomfortable, awkward, scary place. And in practical terms, I can tell you what my parents did. They never filtered anything. I was allowed to read and watch anything I wanted. I was not allowed to harbor questions without asking them. So at a very, very young age, I was exposed to a lot of very significant material. Look at the Holocaust pictures when I was 6 or 7. What happened? What's the truth? People do bad things sometimes. 7-year-old can digest that. We give a 12-year-old a different explanation, maybe with more politics in it, explain how that happens, not that it does. You gotta find the space for the children, spouses, family, maybe it's a parent who's trying to help understand things are not the way they used to be. You're not safe here anymore. Well, I've always been safe here. Your neighborhood will be burned down next week and your shop smashed. got to get their head around it. As a patriarch, your job is to get everybody there alive. Their job is to learn, make the learning survivable, and you've got the next generation covered. That's my take. But I don't do pity.
I love hearing you speak. Somebody told me that Ivan speaks epic, and honestly, it's an honor every time he delivers an answer because it's such a unique perspective. So keep that going. I want to toss this one a little your way, Mike Foster.
Sure.
So you have the most kids on this panel, and while you delivered an amazing spiritual speech to the men who attended Patriarchs, I want to bring a little more practical on how you're managing so many kids and your wife, and you're looking to build up yourself while the world is telling you to do the exact opposite almost 24/7. Where are you finding that energy? And I think there are a lot of other family men who are just feeling burnt out because the next day there's something else wrong and something else wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's an old saying, men are like trucks. The more weight you put on them, the straighter they drive, right? So with those you step up to your responsibilities. The good things about kids is generally they come one at a time, right? And you're upping your level with it. So Em and I, we have a goal. Emily's my wife. We set out to do this. We used to joke while we were dating that we wanted a bus full of kids, which was a joke. So I had to buy something like a bus to get all my kids in it. So got a big E350 to stick them all in there. But this has been the plan, and we've been preparing ourselves for this for a long time. I think in terms of what's happening in society, this is not new. There's civil wars, nations rise and fall. There's trouble like this all the time. And if you're raising your kids up, teaching them history, you're just walking them through the Bible, watching the fall of nations and rise of kings, letting them know this is normal. God has kept people through it before. He'll keep you through this. We got this. So our house isn't a bubble, it's a castle. It has a wall around it. It's our base of operations that we come out. So we let the kids know these things. And I think the main thing is that you have to have, your goals have to be like a bullseye with concentric circles. Right? The whole target matters, but the bullseye is the main thing, and each circle becomes more and more derivative as it goes out, as it emanates. And so sometimes when things are crazy, those outer circles just drop by the wayside, and you stay on the main thing, right? And so we're always talking about where are we at? Where are we at with these kids? How are we doing with our discipleship of our kids, with our family culture, coming back around to it? And so I think it's the mission that you have to continue to revisit and just really keeping tabs on where your individual kids are because they're so different. They process. We had a Black Lives Matter protest come in front of our house. And one of my sons, he's like calling up the police. The other son is looking for the gun, right? So we have very different kids that have very different solutions. One's like, call the authorities. The other one's like, I am the authority. Right? It's like Judge Dredd or something. I am the law. But we're in it together. There's a reason a wife, a very capable wife, is a wonderful thing. Like we see, everyone talks about how awesome it is that women can be CEOs or whatever. But when you see a woman be a wife and a mother, you see the full capabilities of a woman, right? What they can do. She disciples my kids. She helps me. She was harassing me about, I told her, I said, you're nagging, but she was harassing me about getting registered to vote in Ohio because the vote actually matters. Unlike South Carolina, I was going to go Trump anyway. But not in Ohio, we don't know. So yeah, she's a talented woman. We're on the same page. And sometimes we focus on the main things and get to the other things as we can.
Excellent. And Tanner, so to continue on that theme, a lot of these men, a lot of the men who attend these, they are exposed to us through social media, somebody's YouTube channel, Twitter. What have you seen as a key player I've been watching your Twitter and your feed and your Instagram it's like life is normal. You're still doing what you do. You're still training. How are you maintaining that? And what have you seen the manosphere? Have you seen any changes with the election rolling around? Is it all politics? Are the men going crazy? Or is it, how is social media treating you with regards to what you're seeing as a wave of men?
Well, as far as our ability to maintain normalcy, we largely have. And part of that is that we've already been in a position where the changes that a lot of people experience as far as, maybe you work a white collar job and rather than going to the office, you work from home. I already work from home. Maybe your kids can't go to school anymore, and so you have to deal with them being home all the time. We homeschool our kids. And so we always kind of joke in our neighborhood, and our friends have joked around about this, that everybody's now living the Guzzy lifestyle because we're the ones who are already doing this, and they're the ones who get to follow that. But one of the things that 2020 has been an awesome year for the Guzzy family. It's been a great year for us. And part of it is that we've been able to reframe what's been going on as, rather than we're freaking out and we don't know how to handle this or anything, but it's allowed us to see blind spots that definitely existed, but we weren't aware of, and we're in a position where we can start to clear those blind spots. We've been able to take care of some things within our financial house or our preparatory house or the way that we're parenting our kids or things like that. And one of the reasons why my social media feed looks the way that it does, and you and I have talked about this, Zach and I wish that we were average. We really do. We want to normalize what we do as much as we possibly can. I would love nothing more than to be non-exceptional in the way that you and I live. That would be phenomenal. And the more that we can use social media as a tool to be able to demonstrate that, and the more we can attend events like this and you can meet people face to face and you can help them recognize that Zach actually walks the walk. Like, this is not some fake Pinterest level, totally perfected version that you see on Instagram or something, but this is the real deal, and I try to embody that as well. Then the more social media can be a tool to help people realize, yeah, the world is burning around, but I'm prepared for it, or I can be prepared for it because I can see how other people have been prepared for it. And so I'm very intentionally trying to capitalize on the time being what it is to strengthen my family, to develop myself more, to build my business, to improve my preparedness, to improve my community, and see all of the chaos that is 2020 as an opportunity rather than seeing it as a problem that we just have to hunker down and survive.
No, absolutely, and I completely agree. Tex, on that, recently you were talking, in your speech, you shared life lessons you would tell your younger self. We were talking about changes men could make. This aligns quite well with what's going on in the world. There's quite a bit happening, and men have an opportunity to rebuild themselves and, all right, here's where I started doing it right. What are you hoping men are taking from all of this? The election, Black Lives Matter, protests, Corona.
Start now.
We have 37 minutes, just so you know. Keep
right
it in that
on.
limit. There's quite a bit to that question, I understand. But what are the main takeaways you're hoping men are going to have?
It's start now, right? I started 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. I saw what was going on in Washington. I saw what was being done to the Trump administration. Good, bad, or ugly, you choose your side on politics, but there was a silent coup going on against the man, right? And I saw it happening. I started preparing my kids. And my kids are 30 and 36. So I started talking about what confirmation bias is, because they're adults. They should know that. I started talking to them about things that were happening in the media. So my point is not how I did it so good 2 years ago. Trust me, because it freaked them out a little bit. But as these things have started to come true, then all of a sudden they're thinking Dad's not so stupid after all. And he said, it really is not such a whack job conspiracy guy that we're starting to think he is, right? So we go through all of that, and we prepare them so that, like Ivan said, you don't filter anything. So when the things are going to come through, and again, they're adults. They're grown-ass adults. So this is what I see happening and try to protect my kids. But I got 3 grandsons, right? So I want to make sure that the people that are living with my grandsons understand what's going on as well, so they can prepare them and have that going. Try to be normal. We did everything we could this summer to be normal. We flew them down for a trip at the beach because that's what we do, right? Just because there's COVID and this, that, and the other, we flew them down. They took their precautions. They had the little mask on and all that, picked them up at the airport, and we had a couple of weeks at the beach because the kids needed normal. The kids have had everything so bizarre going on around them right now that a little bit of normal to latch onto is very comforting for them. So going forward, this isn't going to stop just because someone's going to get elected president eventually by the end of the year, hopefully. This isn't going to stop. We're in the middle of something bigger than just this. And my grandson was asking me about a book I was reading at the beach this summer. And he's like, what is that? And I said, well, it's a book that talks about how every 80 years a major world war happens. And it goes all the way back to 1450, Battle of the War of the Roses. And he's 12 years old. He's like, what? How does that work? And we got discussion. And so he's like, what's going to happen now? We're in the middle of it, right? That's what we're trying to talk about. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. And he got this look on his face. And it was a look of consternation mixed with fear and anxiety. And I said, but don't worry, because we'll be okay. And he says, how do you know that? I said, because we make things right. We do the right things, and that we prepare for no matter what's going to happen. We don't worry about every single possibility that can happen. We prepare ourselves so that when something happens, we'll respond in the right way, and we'll do the right thing. And he got this nice, calmed look on his face again and just kind of smiled and went off and did some more stuff, right? But as kids do, in one ear and out the other a little bit. But he's going to remember that. When things get batshit crazy, I'm telling you, this is my not so humble opinion, this isn't going to stop. Expect this for another couple of years. I don't care who wins. The battle is not going to be over just because the election's over. So that's my biggest. I'm kind of going off into the whole conspiracy angle, but I'm just telling you, be prepared. And so what you can do right now as fathers, is what you can do as men, is to start preparing your family right now for a longer siege than what you think it's going to be. This could go on for a couple of years.
Just found out who QAnon is. So there's a running theme here. Mike was talking about how the heavier the load, the straighter the truck. Tex was talking about being called a conspiracy theorist, and all of a sudden it's coming true. Phil, for the men who are leading families, the men watching this, the men in attendance, who they're listening, they want to make a change, but there's pushback, either from friends, maybe their wife, family. How do they stay the course, even though the whole world is saying you don't need ammo, you don't need to stock up on food, you don't need to worry about this or that? It's almost like they want them to get caught, flat-footed.
Yeah, so my advice on that right there is stealth. Don't worry about getting any kind of confirmation from someone else in your circle of your family, co-workers, friends, whatever. What you need to do is privatize your preparations. And that's what I've done with my family. When this whole silly virus thing started, I called my father. He doesn't live anywhere close to me. And I said, look, if this gets really bad, you and Mom need to get in the car and come home. Come to my house. I have everything in place. And I don't want any argument. That's just what you need to do. I called my mother-in-law. I said, if this gets really bad and ugly, which it could possibly well do so, you need to get in the car and come to my house.